All right, today, day 296, we're analyzing a deal in 35215. Getting to know this area a little bit more. Let me just double check on the audio. 1 second, everybody. Just want to make sure that we're connected here. Okay, that works. Let me switch over here. Okay, we're in business. So 937 Catherine Street, Birmingham, Alabama. Rancher 4-bed, 1-bath, being sold as is. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and look at this property. So let's look at the condition of the property first. Looks okay on the outside. Looks like the flooring is okay. Door's a little banged up, maybe some paint on the floor. The kitchen looks fine too. Looks relatively turnkey. I can't tell if that's a scratch. I think that's just a shadow. Okay. I'm gonna reserve some amount of money just to have in case of any touch-up paint. It looks like it's painted too, so I'm gonna assume it's in a good shot. Maybe just like 20% of the paint. For the property, I just want to have something. I always want to have something because there's always this full disclosure of it being sold as is. So there's nothing about the roof or anything like that. So for me, the first thing I want to do here is get the rents that are in place. So for me to get the rent, I'm look up the county. This is in Jefferson County. So that I'm going to go to Google HUD FMR. FMR stands for fair market rents. I'm going to click on the first link right up here. I'm going to scroll down here. I'm going to click on the access to small area FMRs. I'm going to click on look up FY 2024 FMRs. I'm going to click on Alabama. I'm going to find a county, and this is Jefferson County. When you come here, you're going to get by zip code, by bedroom count, what the rent ceiling is. And then 35215, your rent ceiling for 4-bed is going to be $1,600. So I'm going to write these numbers down. $1,600 and $1,440. $1,600, $1,440. This is 35215. Just note on these numbers so that I can kind of quickly recall my prior analysis. And my partners already know how I analyze deals, so this is pretty easy. So now that I got my rent ceiling in there, I need to go get my market rents. To get my market rents, I'm going to go to affordablehousing.com, go to the owner section, go to the market rent estimator, and I'm going to plug in the address here. Copy this right over. And I'm plugging in the bedroom count. And then the number I care most about on this page right here is this number here, where it says on the bottom right for 25 units, the average rent for these properties within a 1.78 mile radius is $1,421. $1,421. Okay. That was a 1.78 mile radius. Not too bad. 1431. 1457. Now, when I compare the rent ceiling 1,600 to my market rent is 1421, I have to use the lower of the two when I estimate my rents. Now, why is that, right? This is because of a test called the rent reasonableness test. Okay, typically when you get the rent ceiling, that also includes utilities and those items, etc. But if you don't provide utilities, you got to back it off. But the easiest way to go about it is just look at the lower of the two, because if you go to the Housing Choice Voucher Guidebook, HCV stands for Housing Choice Voucher. This was previously known as Section 8 before they rebranded to Housing Choice Voucher. In Section 2.2 of the guidebook, there's a test called the rent reasonableness. And what it says right here is that in conducting rent reasonableness, the PHA must determine whether the rent to the owner is a reasonable rent in comparison to rent for other comparable unassisted units. This means that you can't charge more rent. Yes, you can use this on Google Sheets. Absolutely. You can just take the Excel file and just upload to Google Sheets, and all the formulas should relatively be the same. Great question. Thanks, Isaac, for asking. I appreciate you. And I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Sometimes I look at the screen name really quick, and sometimes I just say it out loud. All right, so now, obviously, size and unit type matters, but it's very atypical for you to see a 4-bedroom apartment, right? They just don't really build those. So when you have a 4-bedroom in your market rent, right, for 25 units, I can have pretty high confidence that these are for single family homes too. So using the lower of the two, I've used $14.21 for my rent. So I want to plug that right into B16 for my monthly income rents. For my purchase price, okay, is listed for $129,900. So I'm going to go here, $129,900 in B4. To get my renovations, I'm going to go to my rehab calculator spreadsheet right here, right in another tab. I'm going to set aside $1,500 for the rehab. I'm going to have $500 for the landscaping. I'm going to have 20% of the square footage for this property, just so I can have a little bit in case there's some touch-up paint, in case I can't see something in the photos where they might have photoshopped something. So 1665 equals 1665. That's the total square foot. I'm going to divide that by 5, so I know that I got paint for 20% of the home. Just staying conservative here. No flooring jobs or anything like that. I'm going to replace the toilet with a high-pressure flush toilet for $450. And then that's pretty much it. So I got a $4,000 rehab for this property. Not much at all. Okay. So let's go ahead and plug in the rest of the numbers. To get my taxes number, property taxes, I'm going to come down here and just get it right from Redfin. Now, this isn't always accurate, so you got to go check your county records website, but I'm going to put $142 in here because that's what's listed here. Obviously, double check. But the whole point of the exercise right now is simply for you to figure out whether or not this property is worth your time, right? Super, super crucial. You got to have your own investment criteria, whatever that may be. Maybe it's a 10% cash and cash return. We'll use that as a benchmark for today. Maybe you want to look at appreciation. It doesn't matter what it is. This is not investment advice. I'm not soliciting any investments. You got to decide what your criteria is. The whole point of this exercise is just to figure out, hey, is this worth your time to investigate more? Meaning, should I send a contractor out there? Should I send boots on the ground to take photos of the property? Should I get a contractor to give me a bid? Right? All these things need to be in place for you to figure out whether or not it's even worth your time, your energy, and whatever capital that you have to spend just to even arrive at a decision to move forward. Okay. So then my insurance number is going to be right here, 101 for homeowner insurance from my friend. So I'm going to equals 101 times 1.2, and I'm multiplying it by 1.2 to add a 20% premium to the insurance policy, because typically that insurance number is for a prime residence home buyer, and insurance companies typically view investment properties as a little bit more riskier. So they're going to charge a little bit more. So add a little bit of premium there to be conservative. All right. Granted, $20 a month should not make a break your deal. I really don't think it should. And then you got 10% set aside for maintenance every single month. So that's putting aside money, right? This is money that doesn't amount to you. You know that roof is going to get replaced in 15, 20 years. The water heater is going to get replaced in 10, 15, 20 years. The HVAC is going to get replaced in 10, 15 years. You have to be responsible and put aside this money so that you don't think you are more profitable than you are. All right, then I got 10% for property management, and I got 5% for vacancy. Now, could you save money by self-managing a property? Yeah, you could. But if you don't underwrite with property management in place right now, you could be setting yourself up for a job. A lot of folks get into real estate because they want financial freedom, they want freedom of time, freedom of choice. So they generally don't do it. But I do it. Because if you don't underwrite with property management, then you'll never be able to get out of it, right? You might put yourself in a position where you're buying properties where you think you're profitable, but it's no longer profitable after you get higher property management. So just be really, really careful and make sure you're always underwriting with that exit in mind. So let's go ahead and plug in the rest of our numbers. On this property, to get a down payment, I'm going to equals B4, which is my listing price, times my down payment percentage, which is F19 for 25%. So I'm going to give it $32,000 down payment at 2.5% for closing costs. I got $4,138 for my renovations based on what I calculated earlier. To get my financing amount, right, in K6, I'm going to equals to my purchase price in B4 minus my down payment amount in E19. I'm going to get my total number. Right now, I'm probably going to get 8.25% for my DSCR loans. So I'm going to use that number for 8.25%. So if you buy this property for $129,900 and you are able to rent it for $1,421, you will be cash flowing a whopping $70 a month. Okay. $1,421 for rent, $70 for cash flow. Cash and cash return now is 2.1. That was based on the $129,900 purchase price with a roughly, I'll just keep it $4,100 rehab, 25% down, 8.25% interest rate. I like to just write out all these numbers in these scenarios so that I can keep track of what is the deal. Now, 2% is not, that's not a return. I mean, I can go buy a treasury bond for less risk, right? I don't have to worry about hiring a tenant, worrying about them not paying, worrying about the contractor not finishing the job on time. There's a lot of execution risk. So 2% is not worth my time. Now, watch what happens to this cash and cash number as I adjust the asking price. When I turn this to 100 grand, watch what happens. Now it's a 9% return. Would I go 95 grand? Great. Now I'm at 10.6%. This is now a deal, quote unquote, right? Again, not investment advice, just showing you the process to take emotions out of it. I will now be cash flowing $267 a month. That's a 10.6% return. And that's assuming I bought this property for 95 grand and everything else stayed constant at 8.25%. All right. Now, here's one thing I want to show you, because when I started, I was really, really scared. So how do you take emotion out of the deal? Like, what if you go under contract on this property and you said, all right, the seller actually accepted my offer for 95 grand. You here are thinking, well, I'm going to make 10% of my money. Well, all right. Well, what if you send someone out to the property? They walk the property and said, oh, dude, your roof is in terrible shape. All your photos were of the room level, which means like they looked at here and not the ceiling. And it turns out that in the ceiling, in one picture that you can't see in the blind spot, there was a big leak. So let's say you got to rip the roof now, right? Now, let's say now your rehab quintupled at 5x. And now you had to spend almost 21 grand to get this property rent ready. Look what happened to your cash on cash return. Now that you 5x your renovation, your cash on cash return went from 10.6 to 6.9, 6.85 to be exact. So in order for you to say, okay, oh crap, what's the deal? Like, what am I going to do here? Well, what you can do is, well, why don't you negotiate with the seller and say, hey, I just got this quote back. Here's all the roof issues. Here's how much it's going to cost. Now, all of a sudden, you got to lower your asking price. What if it's 80 grand now? Great. Now, see what happens? It went back up to 9.9%, 79 grand. There you go. Now you're 10.1. So you can go to the seller and say, hey, again, assuming everything else stay constant, if I rent out for $14.21, it's a 4-bedroom sale, I can still achieve a 10.1% return if I bought this property at 79 grand. Even though the seller previously accepted my offer for 95, this is no longer feasible because my rehab number has 5x after I sent a contractor out there, after I sent an inspector out there and they found some issues and a contractor gave me a bid. This is how much it's going to cost. And that's how you take the emotion out of the deal and stick to your criteria and just keep it numbers oriented. Yeah, is it bad that you went out there and you spend all this time and you got someone to walk the property? That's okay. But at least you got the contractor to recognize that, hey, you know what you're doing and you're objective, and you weren't just pulling the strings and say, go here, go give me some pictures, blah, blah. You had rhyme, you had logic and reasoning behind your decisions. And he knew, or she knew, the contractor knew, that you were willing to buy the property at 95 grand if the rehab stayed at 4 grand. But in this scenario, because the rehab 5x to 20 grand, you can no longer close the deal at 95 grand. You're not only willing to pay 79 grand, right? Assuming everything else stay constant. The last thing I would do is, well, what if everything stayed constant, right? The rehab still was terrible, but the economic conditions got better, and you were able to get a loan for 7%. Well, now all of a sudden, see what happens when I turn this from 8.25 to 7%, right? It jumped 1.4% on the cash and cash returns. So could that mean I'm willing to pay a little bit more for a property? Yeah. So if I do 83 grand, actually, let's go a little bit higher. 87 grand. There you go. This is good enough. Because my interest rate dropped to 7%, right? Everything else is constant. I'm still at 25% down. I'm still at $20,000 rehab. I'm now willing to pay 87 grand instead of 79 grand, because now it's a 9.9% return. I'm cash flowing $368, $14.21 for rent, assuming you rent out for a 4-bedroom. So I went through all these scenarios because I want to show you what set of terms will make this a deal for your own criteria, because for every single property, there's a price and a set of terms that can make it a deal. And you just got to pull on each lever one at a time so you can focus and understand how do you turn something into a deal in your negotiations with the seller or anybody or other investors in general. Okay, so that's it. My hope for you today is you copy my homework. Analyze the same deal to analyze today, 937 Catherine Street in Birmingham. Use the same spreadsheet. So if you go to affordablehousing.io, click on Get Deal Analysis Tool, put your name, your email, your phone number, put that in there, and that's how you're going to get a copy of the spreadsheet. I didn't make the spreadsheet from scratch. I got it from a few other folks. I modified it. I tweaked it to kind of flow with my own model, and that's it. That's how you can start analyzing deals every single day. You can start putting on your own YouTube channel, right? Copy my homework, put it on there, pick one part and say it better than I did. That's all I'm asking for. This is how we lift each other up. This is how we get better. This is how we create more affordable housing for the rest of the United States. And I hope you all have an amazing Monday. I'll be traveling to Montana tomorrow, so I'll probably be bright and early to kind of get this out of the way. But we're going to stay consistent. We're not going to have any excuses of why we're not doing it. Have an amazing day, everybody. I hope you guys spend some quality time with your family and friends, because that's what life is all about. All right. Have an amazing day, everybody. I'll talk to you tomorrow for day 297.